How's it going, Digit fam? Sam Moore here. Adam's out testing the future of phones, 5G, so I've got the con again today. We've got a couple top stories today, so let's just get right into it. This is the Digit Daily Podcast for May 22nd, 2019. First up, an update to yesterday's top story. ARM has now decided to stop working with Huawei. The UK-based chip design firm is responsible for the underlying architecture of a ton of the chips that power our smartphones, including those from Qualcomm and, you guessed it, Huawei. Huawei's chip company HiSilicon might make its own SoCs, but it still runs on underlying designs from ARM. According to the BBC, staff at ARM were told they couldn't start working with Huawei even temporarily now that the company's been granted a temporary general license in the US. While ARM is a British company, it's actually owned by Japanese company SoftBank, so it's not immediately apparent why it would make this move. It has a design team in Austin, Texas, and a lot of its design work happens there, so that no doubt was a contributing factor. This is a huge deal. It means Huawei might have to radically alter how it makes chips in order to continue even making them, which it will need to do if the ban in the US ends up being permanent. Remember, the temporary license the company acquired yesterday only covers maintenance and upkeep of existing technology. New phones will require new chips, and that just got a lot harder for Huawei to make. As I mentioned in yesterday's roundup, Huawei's sub-brand Honor just launched its Honor 20 phone range yesterday. It was generally well received. Our sister site Android Authority thought it was a great flagship for everyday life. DxOMark rated its camera similarly to the OnePlus 7 Pro. But many are now wondering if it's just dead on arrival. It's a brand new phone, but now it might lose access to Google services in 90 days. We've already gotten confirmation that Huawei won't be able to work with Microsoft on its laptops going forward either. This is the kind of thing we're going to see more of as Huawei's temporary license progresses, and no doubt it's going to be a rocky road. We'll update you with more as we know it, but this is not a good sign for Huawei. Speaking of hardware woes, Apple just updated its MacBook Pro line, in part to try once again to fix its keyboard, which many consider busted. Jury's still out on whether this design is actually better. The laptop only launched today after all. But past Apple using a new material for the keyboard, we don't actually know if anything else about its design has changed. Fourth time's the charm, right? That's definitely how the saying goes, right? Whew. Anyway, on top of the keyboard changes, the laptop also includes new 9th generation Intel chips on board, which Apple claims will bring 40% more performance. No word on how these chips will be affected by those new CPU flaws I mentioned yesterday, but if they're vulnerable, it's worth mentioning again that the fix Apple and Google have recommended could cut performance by up to that much. It's cool to see Apple still trying to correct its hardware problems, but maybe hold off on this one, at least to see if the new chips are vulnerable and if this new keyboard material actually helps. Now then, why don't we move on and get into the roundup? Microsoft has officially launched the new version of its Windows 10 operating system. Called the May 2019 update, this new version lets users control how they want to get updates, adds a sandbox mode for opening risky software in isolation, a simpler start menu, and a new light desktop theme option. It's out now for those who want it, and will no doubt get pushed to PCs all over soon. Sony just dropped a ton of details on the PlayStation 5's hardware. The new console isn't coming anytime this year, but it will apparently focus on backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4 to bring in new users fast. It's also going to be around 10 times faster than the PS4 Pro. The new console will exclusively use solid-state memory, and apparently it will also natively output an 8K resolution. Still no word on a release date or a price, but this thing's shaping up to be pretty beastly. At least until PC hardware outpaces it 3 months before it comes out. Apparently, Apple tried to buy Tesla in 2013. According to an analyst speaking on CNBC, Apple tried to buy the electric car company for $240 a share years before the company was worth that much. Tesla's stock price just dipped below that recently, and the analyst thinks Apple's still interested. If it's serious about building that electric car, now might be a good time to take the plunge. Not much news in there, but it's an interesting idea. We've got a link to the interview in our newsletter. Rounding out our roundup, we've got our space story of the day. Speaking of Elon Musk affiliated companies, SpaceX appears to be getting closer to launching its Starhopper test vehicle soon. The Starhopper is a smaller version of the Starship passenger rocket SpaceX wants to build to ferry people to the Moon and Mars eventually. The company's done tests with the Starhopper before using a Raptor engine, but those achieved little lift because the ship was tethered to the ground. Now it's planning a hop test, which will send the Starhopper into low altitude so it can then test the ship's landing capabilities, similar to recent tests of SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. No word yet on when exactly these tests will start, but no doubt it'll be a spectacle when it does. And I think that's going to do it for today, folks. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on digit.com. If you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about digitdailypod.com. Once again, I'm Sam Moore. I am S'mores on Twitter. Thanks for listening. Adam will be back tomorrow with more tech news.